Okay, so let's get started with InDesign. Hopefully it's visible enough, the screen. And let me start first with a simple visual trick or technique that I use quite a lot in InDesign. And I'm going to open one of these images, so place them into InDesign. Let me just create quickly a new document here. Okay, actually let's just change the document setup. I'm going to use the landscape for this. So when you place in images, obviously there's many ways of placing in images into InDesign. The way I prefer to do it is to actually go into Bridge and drag the image from there or place it from there. Bridge is a application which I've been using since it came out. I just really got used to it. So the way I usually place things in is drag something and then with Command tab or Alt tab switch to InDesign and then drop it. For me it's just a more fluid way of doing things. And instead of clicking when you place into something into InDesign, I usually click and drag to create the frame in which I want to place the image in. Also, holding down space here, you can move that frame around before you let go. So again, just can help to position it exactly where you want it. And then we know that in InDesign, everything is within frames. So we have a frame that holds the content of this image as well. In this case, again, the image is the content itself. So instead of having one frame for the image, you can actually create multiple frames. Using the frame tool, you can create a couple of frames. Okay, let's just create 3 frames for now. You can even overlap these frames. Let me just show you. If we overlap these two, maybe something like that. And then maybe we can also rotate these frames around just to create an interesting effect. You will see what I'm doing. Once you have multiple frames, okay, you can select the image in the background and cut it. Just say edit cut. That removes it completely from the background. Then you select one of these frames and say edit paste into. Now it keeps the position and the size as it was originally. So if I continue doing the same thing, you can use a shortcut as well, Command Alt V, that pastes in the image into multiple frames. The good thing about this is if we select all of these and let's say we just add a white stroke around them, okay, and maybe add the drop shadow, immediately creates an interesting effect there for the whole composition. The good thing about it is that I can still change the size of these frames, okay, and I can still create new frames. Let's say I want to have another small frame here, okay, and maybe rotate it slightly around. If I use the same command, I can still place in the original image. That was still the edit paste into command. Now the only problem with this technique is once I start moving the image, so not resizing, resizing is fine, okay, as long as the image stays in place. But once you start moving it, then it's going to be disconnected from the original placement. There's another way of doing the same technique, and it's another thing that's good to learn that you can do in InDesign. Let me just delete all of these and just place in the original image as it was. So there's this other technique. If I create the rectangles first, okay, I'm just going to create 3 completely separate rectangles, and I select these rectangles, I can actually turn them into a compound object. So you can go into Object, Paths, Make Compound Path. Shortcut is Command 8 or Control 8. What happens is that InDesign is going to consider this as one frame. You can see that the cross is now overlapping these rectangles. So it became one object, which means if I select this image and paste it into this, automatically fills in all 3 of them, so I don't have to do it one by one. But the biggest advantage probably with this is if I use the white arrow tool, I can even move, if I select these, I think, no, white arrow tool, select it, I can move them around, see? And it keeps the image where it was, because now they are part of a bigger object, and they can also be overlapped. You just have to adjust how the overlap works. It has its limitations, just as the previous one. You can rotate as well, of course. So it has its limitations, but these are the 2 techniques where you can combine multiple frames and have an image overlapping those frames. This can be used for so many different things. one of the things which can make it even more interesting if you combine text into your frames. So let's just say I want to create something a bit different from this. Again, I'm going to use the same image, but I just create a new layer, and I'm going to say, okay, I would like to have some text here. So I use the type tool, and I just type in adventure, let's say that word, and then we are going to change the font. I'm going to use, I don't have that font here, let's just use something like this one, and then I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, actually impact would be better. I need something a bit more bolder text, and we will see a bit more of the image. So if you want to use text as a frame for an image, it's not commonly done in InDesign. It's something you can very quickly do in Photoshop using a clipping layer, clip the image onto a text layer. But you can actually do that here in InDesign as well. You can go to the type menu and just simply create outlines from the text. Once it's outlined, you can paste the image into it. I just did the same thing, edit, paste into. Okay, and then you have the image within the text. Okay, and to take this even further, we can also, of course, have, let's say, another frame below, like that. And then we can paste the image in there and paste the image in here, and then you can already see a little bit more of the image. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a peek into the freedom of what you can achieve if you start playing around with frames and not just constrain yourself to always the just simple rectangular frame. You can use anything as a frame and combining multiple frames to achieve effects. And of course, don't forget that once you created a frame, that frame can also be adjusted. You can use the any of those points and create interesting shapes from even a normal rectangle. Okay, you can add a bit of perspective or momentum into the whole graphic if you start playing around with things. Okay, I just used the direct selection tool and started making changes there. Okay, now let me show you a technical skill. Nested styles. Now this is a very important thing, and that's why I'm going to start with it. So I'm just going to open this file from Bridge. So going to technical nested styles. Just open this document up. Okay. Now why is it so important? Because I've been teaching InDesign for almost 10 years, and I know for a fact that this is something that almost no one knows about, or only those who really look into working with styles. Working with styles in InDesign is like basic. You have to work with styles, otherwise you will just waste a lot of time. But working with styles can be really taken to the next level if you start looking into how styles can be connected to each other. Creating styles on their own, like character styles, paragraph styles, if you already do that, great. But if you never tried nesting styles, then you should definitely look into this. There was a company I worked for, which was they have to release a catalog every 2 months, and they have around 10,000 products. And I was actually doing a training for them, and they told me that they spend weeks on always updating their products in InDesign because it just takes so long to do it nicely, the style. Because they have a copywriter who writes all the copy, and then they get that and they have to update it. Now, that's the desired formatting. It's a simplified version of what they had, and obviously they have the copy. Now, the problem was that what they did is they had styles set up for each of these. So that's one style, that's another style, and then the title. So actually 3 different characters or paragraph styles they created. And then what they did is they selected that, applied the style. Selected that, applied the other style, and they selected these each one by one applying styles. Now, that's still better than using no styles at all, but obviously that's not the way you should work in InDesign, because InDesign is probably one of the most smartest applications in the Adobe family, if you know what you are doing, because there is a way to have one paragraph style that can sort this whole thing out by using embedded or nested character styles. So look at this. I have that one selected, okay? And I go to my paragraph styles panel, and there's the product description style. It's just one style, but as soon as I apply that, look at that. It applies completely different styles, and it knows where it needs to change the formatting. And even like find things like the P in this column will fall in the same position, so it's easier to read. Or the value, again, the point is, it's easier to read when it's like that than if it's aligned to the left. Okay, so it knows exactly how to align these. And it doesn't stop there. If they have a product which has more than 2 lines, let's say 3 lines, again, it will do it just fine. It will know that there's not just 1 or 2 lines, but there's 3 lines. And if there is more, I can continue typing, and you will see, let me just make a bit more space here. Okay, I think there might be a bit of a overlap here with styles. Yeah, I used something else here, but I'm going to show you how I did this because it's more interesting how it works. So basically what you need to do to be able to do this is to set up all these styles as character styles. You can see I have product name, product tab bold, product tab normal. That's actually these 3 styles. Okay, set them up as character styles. And then what you do is you create a paragraph styles, and within that paragraph style, you go to drop caps and nested styles, and there you place in these character styles as nested styles. Now, I'll show you another example where I can actually walk you through this process, but this is the way it works. Okay, let me show you the actual process. I'm going to open another maybe simpler version of this. So again, this is what we have here. We have a simple list of items, okay? And this is the desired result, and this is the actual original copy. Let's say that one there. Okay, and I created already the character styles. There's the product name, the price, the stock, and the new or used state. So that's how it's going to look at the end. So to create the paragraph style, I have that one there already, but I'm just going to create a new one. Okay, and in this, let's say I call this one test. In this I go to drop caps and nested style. I think I had the original one selected, so I'm going to select basic paragraph, new, and I'm not still reset to base. Yes. Okay, so I go to drop caps and nested style, and all I do is click on new nested style. So what comes first? The product name. New nested style, I choose product name. Remember, that's the character style. I say I want this to go through one word. Okay, so the first word is fine, but instead of saying that, I'm going to use from words, because there might be more words, like camera A is 2 words. Some products might have 3 words. So instead of using a word number, I will use tab characters as a division. Okay, so up to the first tab character is going to use that, and then new nested style. The next one is going to be the price, again up to the first tab character. That's going to stop it. So let's see, if I use this on this, we can see that already the first 2 is working, and I'm going to show you the hidden characters. Command-Alt-E or Control-Alt-E, I, is the shortcut to show hidden characters, but they are also here in type, show hide hidden characters. And you can see those are the tab signs, and that's how I'm going to continue. So I go back to the product list, and because I have the preview and I already applied it here, we can actually see it live while I'm doing. So if I go again, new nested style, and I choose now the stock through one tab character again, that already is going to work there. You see, it's already updated. And then I go again, new nested style, and then new used, that's the last stage. And there I don't say tab characters, I say the forced line break. That's shift enter or shift return. That's what you can see at the end. That's the shift return. That's the best way to separate your lines most of the time in InDesign. If you don't want to separate a paragraph, because return would create a new paragraph, you don't want to separate it into paragraphs, you just want to start a new line, then you use forced line break. So this is all easy so far, but the trick comes now. How can I repeat this pattern? Okay, I have a pattern of 4 different styles. All you need to do is to create a new nested style at the end and choose repeat, which creates a loop of those character styles, and that's the trick. So once you choose repeat, you can even define how many styles you want to repeat. So if you had in the beginning 1 or 2 that you don't want to repeat, only the last 4 in our case, there's no other styles, but the last 4 I want to repeat, I just choose that, and then look at that, it's perfect already. The only thing we have to sort out now is the tabs. Tabs, again, very powerful in InDesign. You must use tabs if you do anything like, similar to this. Tabs is very simple. All you need to do is to click here on the ruler to define where you want these to go. Okay, so you can see that each of these positioning can create positioning for those text in there. And if you, for example, want to make sure the in stock is always aligned, you can select that tab. Okay, actually that one is probably, where is it? Okay, that one there, that one is that, yes. So if I select this one here, I can change it to this tab. You can see that there are 4 different tab options: the align left, center, align right, or align to decimal. And in align in, you can actually type in the word in, and then it's going to align to those words. So it will always keep, even if it's like 100 in stock or only 1 in stock, it will always align to the word or the letter I. Okay, and that's in stock. It will always be that there, so it can be aligned on that decimal. Okay, or character, or specified character. So tabs are also a brilliant way to work out where these things should go. I'm just going to set that back to left as well, and I'm going to click on OK. So remember, drop caps and nested styles, use the repeat at the end, very important, very useful feature. And this, again, going back to this catalog example, here, when I use styles, I use a style for the title, another style, character style for the description, and then I use 4 different styles for these columns. So when I use the repeat, how many styles did I repeat, do you think? The last 4. So this one, that one, that one, and that one. It didn't repeat these 2. So there's an example where you don't need to repeat the whole pattern, you just want it to repeat the last 4. Okay, so usually in InDesign, there's always an option which can do what you need. You just need to really look into it and play around until you find what you need. Okay, so another example, a quick one, visual example. Let me switch back. Yes?
If the copywriter has written it wrong, so say you've got the product code and then pack of 4, and they've combined them, they haven't put a tab between them, is it going to break all the other products in that list?
If you don't have a tab between them.
Yeah, if they haven't set it out before you applied the styles properly.
Yeah, if the copy itself is missing tabs or even forced line breaks at the end, they use normal line break, then it will mess up the styling, of course. So in those cases, you can always use the fine change feature. So for example, for double space or triple space, if someone pressed that instead of using tab, you can always filter those out and immediately change them to tab. Or if you make a selection of all those catalog elements where you see there's something wrong, you can see that maybe they didn't use forced line breaks. You can, with the fine change, quickly replace all line breaks to forced line breaks, and that should solve the problem. Yeah, you have to definitely make sure that the copy is good. So this company where I showed them how to do this, they said I probably saved them around 2 weeks of work for every 2 months, which is not bad, because they did this manually one by one. Imagine for 10,000 products doing that. I felt sorry for whoever had to do that with the old way. Now they just apply it and it's done. And that's how it's supposed to be. So let me show you the next visual skill. So out of bounds, this is a very important technique which needs a bit of Photoshop skills as well. But What I'm going to show you here is, again, creating visual interest in an image. I'm just going to make this high quality display so we can see it better. Is it just... come on. Is it not changing it? Doesn't matter, you will see it. It doesn't necessarily need to be high quality. So what I'm going to show you here is that when you need to create effects where something comes out of its frame, okay, the out of bounds or cutout effect, or you can call it so many ways, is best done by using a PSD file, and I'll show you the PSD file. It's here in the links. All I did there, just open up this image, all I did here is I created a Photoshop file which has the original photograph, and then I have another version which has her masked out. I used the pen tool to mask her out and a bit of pixel mask as well for the hair, but you can see that is also there as a separate layer. So the original photo and the separate layer, and this Photoshop file I place into InDesign. So let me go back to InDesign, and in InDesign what you can do is to have two versions of the same image on top of each other. So I'm going to select this, copy, and paste in place. So there's now two of the same frames on top of each other. Okay, you can see it in the layers, we have two of them. And I'm just going to turn one of them off for now. And the one at the bottom I'm going to reduce down to something like that. Okay, I cut it, maybe not around the neck. It's never good to do something like that. Doesn't look right. But let's just cut her half in there. And then I turn back the other Photoshop file. I select that, right click, and then choose Object Layer Options. And within there, we have access to the Photoshop layers. So within InDesign, I can actually turn those layers on and off. And to create this effect, all I need to do is to turn off the photo, the original one, which had everything. And if I click OK, you will see that on this version, we will see the masked out version. And we immediately have that effect that she is coming out of the frame. Okay, by using two images, very simple way of doing it. And the most interesting thing about this is I can lock that version where she comes out of the frame. Okay, I lock it, which means I won't be able to select it. So wherever I click here, I just select the one which still shows the background, and I can always play with that where I want the cutout effect to be. So I can always drag it down, drag it up. I can do whatever I want. I can drag it up from the bottom, and because I did a nice mask in the beginning, I can go in any direction I want and cut into it. Of course, I can turn this into any frame. I can even add radius on it. I can do, again, multiple frames if I want in the backgrounds. So many different things you can do once you do this setup. Okay, so Photoshop file, two layers, one mask, one the original, and I use two versions on top of each other, one which turns off that layer to be able to show the mask version. If you look at magazines or any printed materials, you will see this effect so many times. Usually less is more, so you don't want it to be really like cut half of the body out. Subtle things, like in this case, probably only thing I would do is have a slight step out of the frame like that, and just a bit of that, whatever that is, that big feather on her head coming out of the frame. Okay. So subtle effect are usually working better for the overall design. Okay, so now again going back to a technical, any questions about this? Okay, going back to another technical skill, table of contents. I'm curious, how many of you use the actual table of contents feature in InDesign? Hands up. Okay, that's actually quite good. How many of you type it in manually? Okay, that's not a bad thing. Don't worry, you can put your hands up. There's a reason for using it, and also there's a reason why not to use the feature, the automated table of contents feature. Now, just to show you an example here, this is an automated table of contents, and I can show you the pages. So we have 4 spreads in here. We have 2 chapters. This one is the adventure chapter. First one is about this romantic trip to the Alps. then another spread about Costa Rica, and then another chapter is the relaxing trips. First image is Croatia, and then another one is Wales, just so you are familiar with the whole page layout. And then this is what is reflected in the table of contents. So we have in this issue the adventure trips and relaxing trips, and then the titles there. And this is created using the table of contents feature. Why is that useful? Well, if I, for example, decide that the Wales, the last spread, is actually falling into the adventure trips category, I can just drag that up there. Okay, I moved it up, and I can just go to the layout, select this one here, the table of contents, and update table of contents, and look, the Wales should go up. No, why did it not refresh? Update. It should refresh. Let me see, why is it not refreshing? I think it might be because of the recording. Sometimes recording my screen affects some things in the application. I'm just going to swap these around, maybe that way. Nothing, no response. I don't know why. It can also be because I prepared this on another computer and I just packaged the whole thing up. It's a shame it's not showing the... It's like completely dead, this table of contents. Normally, unfortunately, I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe if I open the... that's the only thing I have to show, unfortunately. But, sorry? Yeah, maybe that would be a good idea. So I'm just going to delete it. I'm not sure it's going to table of contents. Oh, it's not even coming up. Maybe it's because of the screen resolution we can't see. That's strange. Let me check it on a different document. Yeah, I think it's the screen resolution that doesn't, probably is showing up somewhere outside of the screen, that panel. I'm sorry, I don't know why it's not working now, but basically what you need to do with table of contents is also using paragraph styles. I'm really sorry that I can't show you this, but what's important is using paragraph styles. So paragraph styles like this one here is what table of contents can track. So when you use a paragraph style for that, I call that the topic or something like that. You can see it here in paragraph styles as destination title. That's what the table of contents is tracking, and wherever that style is used is going to be moved into and placed into the table of contents here. So that's when it's going to appear. But for example, for things like the adventure trips and relaxing trips, if you break that up into multiple frames like this one here using different styles, then it's a difficult way to track that and to actually use this text within the table of contents. So for these examples, a quick fix is to actually put the text again in a separate frame called adventure trips, the text I want to see in the table of contents, and put it on a hidden layer, which I call table of contents text. And there is an option in table of contents, which unfortunately I can't show because that panel is missing. It doesn't come up, that dialog box. There is an option to include hidden layers. Okay, so sometimes you don't want to actually see the text that you want to see in the table of contents, but because the page is going to move around in your document, that can still track where that text is, even though it's on a hidden layer. So sometimes you might want to use that feature called include hidden layers. I just wanted to point that out. And also, if you want to create this effect, where you have the dots after the text, for that, all you need to do is to create a character style, which has the underline option on, using weight, let's say 1 point, and with the color you want, and set the type to dotted. That's the character style you save, and within the table of contents, you can choose a character style for whatever you want to have in between the entry and the page number. And then it's going to fill it up with those dots. Okay, that's a commonly asked question how to do this. This is the way. If I change this to wavy, it's going to create wavy line. If I change this to Japanese dots, that's a little bit closer, then it's still going to use that, and so on and so forth. And you can see I can change the weight as well, which will change the size. Okay, so once again, character size, paragraph size. Without them, you can't create automated table of contents. Okay, let me go to, but once again, if in some cases I would actually avoid using the automated table of contents if the format of the document doesn't really let itself to use this feature, because it's a bit restricted, only being able to work with paragraph size, then you don't necessarily need to use it, so it's not a big problem if you don't use it in some cases. Another quick example, just go back to this document here. So another quick example of a visual feature using the Gridify feature. So I'm just going to go back to Bridge, and I'm going to go to this folder. Let me just find the visual image grid. So I have multiple images here. If I want to place all this in InDesign, once again I can do exactly the same thing. Start dragging them from Bridge, go to InDesign, let go. Once I let go, you will see it will load all of these images in. They are really high resolution, so it takes a while. But if I zoom closer, you can see that there's 8 images in the place gun. It's actually called place gun. That's the technical term. So I can use the right and left arrows to go through these images and decide which one I want to place in first. But what's another cool thing you can do is while you are dragging, you can use the the arrows on the keyboard to split up your actual layout into as many frames as you want. Okay, so for example, let's just create, maybe it would make more sense to have 4 columns, okay, and 2 rows, because we had 4 images. Still, I can use the space to move this around. And also another thing you can do is if you hold down Command and use the up and down arrows, as you can see, I can also increase or decrease the space between these frames. So it's a little bit difficult by holding down still the mouse, but just hold down Command or Control and up and down arrows you can reduce. As you can see, I reduce it completely to 0, the vertical space between the columns, between the frames. And when I let go, it's going to place in the images in there. But by default, these images won't completely fill the frame. They will be fit to the frame and center to them, but the fitting can be always changed later. So if I select them, I can use the fill frame proportionally, for example. These are the frame fitting options here on the top. So I use normally fill frame proportionally, and also recommend to try out auto fit. If you use auto fit, that also lets itself to another really cool feature, like using the gap tool. Now, if I start changing where the division should be, these images will automatically fill in and fit to the frames they are placed into, as you can see. And there's shortcuts as well with the gap tool. If you hold down Alt, you actually move everything around that selection. With the gap tool, obviously, you have to click on the gaps, but it doesn't only mean these gaps, it means everything. So any negative space in design can be edited to change the positive space. It's a very smart thing, and as a designer, you can think of it as the negative space editor. So if I use Shift, that's another thing, I can break gaps as well, and Command or Control can resize gaps. So there's a lot of things here you can do with this, and very quickly you can create very cool and interesting results. Okay, so once again, let's just, maybe I need more space for that image, I need more space for the ducks because they are really cute, and so on and so forth. Okay, I can also break up the bottom line, break up this one a little bit, and so on and so forth. And see, the auto fit is really cool because it automatically resizes the image. So when I make it more into the original aspect ratio, it automatically shows more of the image. Once again, with this one, I don't have to go into it, it automatically does it for me. So a combination of the Gridify, it's a really stupid name, but that's just simply using the arrows when you place in multiple images to create the frame, combined with the gap tool and combined with the fill frame proportional and auto fit together. So it's a combination of a couple of things, but it can create very cool results and quickly. Okay, so the next one is how many of you had problems, another technical skill. I'm just wondering, how many of you had problems with orphans, widows in InDesign? Yes. Okay, so how to solve these problems? Would be good to solve it in real life, but here in InDesign it's a very easy thing to solve. So there's another quick example I have here. So for those who are not familiar with these typographic issues, I have there written, although it's not really visible from this distance. Let me just zoom a little bit closer. How many of you heard of runt as a typography term? That's also another thing. That's the single word that appears as the last line of a paragraph. So some people think that that is a widow, but that's actually technically not a widow. That is a runt. Widow we only call these things where a last line of a paragraph appears on top of a column. Okay, when it's the last line of a paragraph, which is just a single word or even two words, sometimes you can call run. Again, it doesn't look nice. Okay, so that's a run, that's a widow. And what is an orphan? Who knows what's the orphan? If I do something like this, that is an orphan. The first line of a paragraph at the bottom of a column. Okay, so these are three issues that you can have when you work with text, and it's very common. I mean, it's hard to avoid these things to happen. So there is actually two things you have to do: set up a character style and another paragraph style, and nest that character style within the paragraph style. So once again, same thing I explained before. So first thing is to set up a character style. I called it no orphans, and that is only one feature that you need here. Okay, within the character style you have to go to basic character formats and tick no break. That's all you need in that character style. Basic character formats, tick no break. That's all. Once that's set, then you set up a paragraph style, and I just go into that paragraph style and show it to you. There's two things you need to do there. First, you go to keep options, and there you just simply select keep lines together. Again, just another tick, which means at the start and end of paragraph it automatically will keep two lines together. So it will never allow to break the first two lines and the last two lines of a paragraph. So that immediately solves orphans and widows. Okay, but it still doesn't solve runs. When the paragraph is not breaking up, but just simply the last line is too short. To sort that out, you have to do another thing, going into the probably most feared area of paragraph styles, grab style. Grab styles are more like almost coding, because what you need to do here is to apply, add that style, so just say new grab style, choose that character style we created earlier with the no break, and then add this text to it, dot, curly brackets, a number which represents the amount of characters, the minimum amount of characters you allow as the last line. So 20 characters is usually like 2-3 words. So it's already long enough not to look bad as a very short line, but you can set that up to whatever you feel is good. It can be 30, 40, whatever you want. So that means it will allow minimum to have 20 characters in the last lines of each paragraph, and it ends with also close the curly brackets and end with a $sign. Okay, it's almost like a decrypted language, but if you learn these things, it's actually very simple. It's not like Java or C++ coding. It's much easier than that. It's good to look into. If you want to get to a really high level of setting up styles, look into grep styles. There's a list on Adobe's website of all the grep language codes, and it's very easy to learn. Doesn't take long. Just have to spend a bit time on it. But as you can see, once I set that up, I only need to use that paragraph style. So if I select this text here, you can see that it has the orphans, widows, and the runts. But once I click on the other one, immediately sorts everything. So Notice the short end paragraphs, the runs, are now much longer everywhere. Okay, before there was a short one there, another short one there. Now they are better. And also the video here with the one line is automatically having 2 lines. And if I try to create an orphan, look at the 2 lines at the bottom there. Once I cut into it, immediately moves it up there, so it doesn't allow 1 line on its own there. And it's all sorted. So once you set this up, you can use it for anything. I mean, you can have the copy paragraph style always using these features. You don't need it for like headlines and shorter text, but the copy, especially if you have longer text, should always have these features automatically added.
Quick question. What happens when we take hyphenation off?
Sorry?
We take hyphenation off?
Yes, hyphenation can also be taken off within.
Does that affect your...
No, it shouldn't affect it. No. You can include that in the style and it won't mess up anything from this. Okay, did that make sense? It's really hot in here. Okay, so the next one, not much time left. I'm trying to cover as much as I can. Just another very quick one. I'll just go back to one of these examples. How to tint images, also another visual one. Tinting images in InDesign, so you don't always have to go back to Photoshop to create a tinted effect. You can create a simple frame, fill it with a color, any color you wish, and then you just have to go to transparency under the effects, transparency, and simply use blend modes. Basic blending, and you choose color. And look at that, nice blending, just like in Photoshop. And the cool thing about this is that you can always change the opacity of the blending. You can also change the blending itself. You can use screen, multiply, all kinds of different effects there. And you can also turn an image into black and white or grayscale by setting this one to saturation. Okay, or actually, sorry, you can use color and then just change the color to black. And that creates a black and white effect. Okay, so very simple, easy way of creating this effect. And once again, the cool thing to do this in InDesign is that you can always move these around. So you don't have to go back and forth in Photoshop and InDesign, just do it directly in InDesign. Okay, of course I wouldn't do retouching and masking in InDesign, but the things I can do, I rather do it here than going back to Photoshop. Okay, another quick technical one, bullets and numbering, just a quickie on this one as well. Bullets and numbering, again, is a tricky thing to learn and to make sure you use it properly. One simple thing to remember, if you have ever have to work with lists, for every level you should have a separate paragraph style. That's the key. So you see I have first level list and second level list as paragraph styles. And the way I use that is basically if I add new titles here, another entry, it automatically continues with my first level list. But if I go to the next one, here you can't use tab like in, let's say, Google Docs. Tab would immediately, or Word, it would immediately use the second level for a list. But if I press tab, it just simply keeps the original style. Okay, you don't have to use tab. Here, let's say this is another sub-entry. All I need to do is to change it to the second level list. And automatically, because that's set up as a second level list, it will automatically add the indent. So let me show you here. There is a separate bullets and numbering section in paragraph styles. And there you can decide what level that should be in. So in this case, bullets is set to second level. And you can, of course, even add custom glyphs. So you can use anything from characters, from fonts. I use that one, let's say, and then it will use that. And the way I colored these bullets and the numbers is by using a character style, which is just simply using blue. So it says character color, blue, and that is used within these paragraph styles. So both the first level list and second level list under bullets and numbering is using the character style called numbered list number. Okay, so that's why it's colored. So very simple thing. And then another important thing if you use paragraph size for numbering and bulleted lists is to make sure you have the continue from previous number option on. with which you can actually make sure, even if you create another frame, and that frame can be on another page, if I type in entry, see, it automatically knows that there was already 5 items before. Okay, so it continues the numbering because it's just using the same style. Okay, so within a whole document, if you want it to continue, you can set it to that. If you want it to always start from scratch in every frame, then you can set it to start at a specified number. Okay, that does make sense. Okay, cool. Quickly, next one. Okay, clipping path, another cool thing. How many of you use clipping paths within Photoshop and then use it in InDesign? Okay, some of you, great. So let me show you that just very quickly. Clipping path example, here we go. Okay, now this tent is actually masked in Photoshop, but I applied it as a mask here in InDesign. So the image itself looks like this. Let me show you. And it's a JPEG, another interesting thing. You can actually save, I intentionally wanted to show this to you, you can save parts in JPEG files. Not many people know that. Usually you would save a TIFF, but JPEGs can include curves, I mean parts, multiple parts as well. So you see, it's not a vector mask, it's just a simple work path that was saved as a path called tent. Okay, I can show you. That's the thing itself. I can select it with there are the points. Okay, so it's prepared like that, but it's saved as this. So there's no transparency here. It's not a PNG or not a PSD or TIFF. It has the original white background. But once I place it in InDesign, what I can do is to go to the Object menu, and on the parts, not parts, sorry, where is it? Clipping path, options, you can choose that. Again, I don't know where the dialog box is missing, somewhere probably in the outside of the screen area. That's really annoying. But that one, so here again, object, clipping path, options, that's where you can choose the tent path from the JPEG, and then it automatically removes the background. Okay, so very simple thing. And just a quick quickie here as well. What if you use text wrap on this image? You can see that text is wrapped around it, but you don't want this text frame to be using the text wrap. Let's say I want to have it this overlapping the tent like there. Because this tent is using text wrap, every text is tossed away from it. What you need to do is to select that text frame which you don't want to be affected by text wrap, go to the text frame options, object text frame options, and there is a feature there called ignore text wrap. None of my dialog boxes are coming up, that's quite annoying, but there's an option called ignore text wrap, and then it's going to remove that. Let me just try to quit InDesign, maybe then I will see these things again. Might be none of my dialog boxes are visible. Strange, I never had this before. It's probably the screen resolution I chose. Let's try just a quick attempt, because otherwise we can't see that. And then there's only one last thing I want to show, and that's the end before we boil in this room. Come on. So the last thing is the quote frame, which is a very common thing that we need to do. I mean, use pull quotes in text, and how to properly do that. So in the meantime, I'm going to just go to that folder, and InDesign doesn't want to quit. Okay, now it's off. Let's open this one up. So how would you create pull quotes in InDesign? Any suggestions? So when you know, like, you have a layout like that text, you can see there a lot of text, and in the middle there's a grabbed sentence which is important or something that's relevant to the whole article, which is like a starting point to read the whole thing. It can make you interested in the whole thing. And there's those big pull quotes around it. How would you place them? Would you place them in separate frames or? Yeah, separate frames, because they are really big and they usually don't use the same size as the text. Is there anyone who would use table for that? No? You never thought of using a table. I'll show you why that's a useful way. Very simple to set up, but perfect for aligning it. And there's two little hidden gems here in this example. And that's really the end of it. So hopefully it will open it. Yeah, there you go. So that's what I was talking about. The pull quote. So let me just zoom a little bit closer. Come on. Okay, so that's the one. If I go into my frame and select it, you can see it's a table which has 3 columns. You don't need rows, just 3 columns. And what you do is you place the pull quote, the first one on the first column, the third column has the other pull quote. And then the cool thing about it, if you do it this way, wherever they are aligned, they will always stay there. So that one will always be at the bottom, the other one will always be on the top. And if I start changing the text, so let's say I just remove some text from here, that one on the right automatically goes up. If I put it back, it automatically goes down. If I make more text here, or add more text, so let me just select this one here and add that after it, you see automatically again goes down. Okay, so that's a much better way of setting it up, using a table and just simply align these wherever you want them. I usually use what's that? Baseline shift. I use baseline shift or leading, whatever you prefer, to move it up and down. And then whenever they are, that's where they stay. And one last thing, have you noticed that when I edit text or remove text, the frame is changing? Do you see that? When I type, automatically increases the frame. The way that can be done, I think it was an addition in CS6 or CC. I don't remember when they introduced this. But in the text frame options, we have now an auto size option where you can set up auto sizing for frames depending what you need. Normally for text, it would be height only. So that automatically increases the height or decreases the size depending on the content of the frame. Very useful thing. I mean, I use this all the time since I realized that there is an option for that. So that means if I remove a line, automatically reduces the height of the frame. When I add back text, automatically extends the frame. Okay, very useful stuff there. All right, and that's 10 features I went through in a short amount of time. Hope I showed you new things and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, I will be here all day so you can ask me. And thanks a lot for your attention. Thank you.